Alrighty guys, today we are kicking off a little mini build series that is going to answer the question about what is the best engine for your Silverado high performance build. Is it the 8.1 big block or is it the tried and true LS? Now just a little bit of a background. My name's LT and on this channel I do build custom and high performance trucks, and probably the cornerstone build for the channel is the UglyTruck. It's a 2000 Silverado. I swapped it over to an 8.1 and then I put a massive 80mm turbo on it, and even on like 6 or 7 pounds of boost it makes 480 horse at the wheels, 620 pounds of torque. But we've cranked it up since then, and I have a 547 cubic inch big block that is in the works that's going to replace the stock 8.1. But it seems like every time I make content about the 8.1, it seems like 1 or 2 people down in the comments will mention, hey, you probably could have made more horsepower and spent less money by using an LS instead of an 8.1 big block. And that thought just kind of intrigued me because I've had both trucks. I've had big blocks, I've had LSs, but I've always kind of favored the larger cubic inch engines because they tend to make a ton of torque at lower RPMs, and that just makes for a really fun driving experience. But nevertheless, that thought just kind of stuck with me, and so I thought, well, I just happen to own 2 2000 Silverados, one of them with an 8.1 and one of them with an LS, so I figured this would be the perfect opportunity because this truck is stock, it's got a 4.8 under the hood, and this is a great time to kick off a build and see, can I make more horsepower for less money? Because that's really what this whole comparison comes down to, is how much power can you make for how much dollar you have spent. So a little bit of background. When I first put the 8.1 together, it was bone stock. We're talking stock exhaust manifold, stock 2.5 inch catalytic converters and the mid pipe, stock air intake, had a mechanical cooling fan on it. And in that configuration on the chassis dyno, it put down 307 horsepower and 427 pounds of torque. Now, that's a fair amount of horsepower, definitely makes a lot of torque, but the whole swap cost me $3,010. That's going from a 5.3 to an 8.1, all the little miscellaneous fittings and hoses and adapters, the engine itself, and the tuning, the credits, all that good stuff. $3,010 to get 300 horsepower at the rear wheels. Now, on the surface, that doesn't sound like a whole lot. Actually, it sounds kind of like a bad deal if you think about it, because according to everyone, you could throw a cam in an LS and make that much power and spend a whole lot less money, because a cam is like, what, 500 bucks, and by the time you buy valve springs and gaskets and blah, 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 you can maybe have $1,000 in there and then have more horsepower. Or so you guys have suggested down in the comments. So today we are going to put that to the test. We are going to kick off a build series. And the first thing we got to do is find out how much horsepower this LS is going to make.
Pull it in second because third's going forever.
Okay.
You also develop 2 misfires in the middle of that third gear pull.
All right.
But second's not a true 1-to-1 ratio, but it's pretty close.
Okay.
Third, I mean, I stopped the run at 5 and you were already at like 120, so I was like,
yeah,
we might need to slow it down.
All right, it's fine by me.
What gears are in this?
373s. It's got kind of tall tires though.
I was about to say it's revving on out there.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna set it up in second, and then we'll do one more.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Anytime I kick off any sort of a high performance build, I really like to gather as much baseline data as I can, acceleration and horsepower at the rear wheels, because the two don't always correlate together. I mean, yeah, you can estimate with the weight of a car and its quarter mile time, you can estimate very closely your horsepower, but there are other changes that you can make to the chassis, say a torque converter or gears, that will alter how fast or slow the car accelerates without actually changing the horsepower at all. So that's why I like to get both pieces of information. On the 8.1 naturally aspirated, I only have chassis dyno data. I don't have any 0 to 60 or anything like that. But on the step side, I do at least have the Draggy GPS box 0 to 60, 8th mile times, as well as we now have the chassis dyno numbers. So how did it stack up compared to the 8.1 on its baseline to baseline? Remember, the 8.1 at the rear wheels made just over 300 horsepower, 427 pounds of torque. And the 4.8, that's right, this is a 4.8 Silverado. It made 208 horsepower at 5,100 RPMs, and 229 pound-feet at 4,400, where the peaks from the 8.1, it made its peak torque at 3,400 RPM and about 1,000 RPM lower on each horsepower and torque. That puts the 4.8 at 100 horsepower less and 219 pound-feet less than the stock 8.1. So the $1 million question, or I guess rather the $3,010 question is, can I make up this deficiency with that much money? I don't know. I have a prediction, and I'll let you know what I think, and I'm curious to know what you guys think. With the upgrades that we have planned, maybe we'll be able to get close on the horsepower side of things. I do not think we're going to make 220 pounds of torque for $3,000. But also, we're making this comparison naturally aspirated to naturally aspirated, because yeah, I could throw some nitrous on there for like 800 bucks and I could make way more power and torque, but that's not what I want to do. I want to make a naturally aspirated build at first, just to see how much power we can make. Now, of course, down the road, we are going to boost this 4.8 in some way. I probably will do, it's a toss-up right now between a Pro Charger and a LSA blower, because I honestly feel like with the way that this 4.8 is going to make its power, chair in the way, we're going to be making a lot of really high RPM power. Right now, its peak is already about 1,000 RPM higher than what the 4.8 did. And when I do my upgrades, this peak is going to get shifted even further out. This power curve, it starts to climb here and then fall off. It is going to continue to climb, and we're probably going to have to rev the thing up to 6,500 RPM to make its peak power. What upgrades do I have planned? So keeping naturally aspirated, we're going to do all the basics that you guys would do. Cam swap, long tube headers, full tune, some valve train upgrades, probably like a little intake, cold air intake type thing. Naturally aspirated at first. I'm not going to take the heads off, I don't think. Eventually I may decide to change the heads and do some other things like that, but I think for now, we're just going to do the basic bolt-ons that I just mentioned, and maybe we'll see how close we can get to those 8.1 numbers. Now, in the future, yes, we're going to boost it. Yes, we're going to spend some more money on the 4.8, and we're also going to do an all-wheel drive conversion on the truck. I've got a looser torque converter already, which will really help improve acceleration. And because of the way that this 4.8 is going to make power at the higher RPMs, I'm also probably going to re-gear the truck to 410s, maybe even 456s. I don't know. There's a lot of planning still going on, but that's what we're about to kick off, is the engine build, or it's not really an engine build, but all the bolt-ons to see how much power we can make. I'm going to do the phase 1 of the build before I convert it to all-wheel drive, just because I want to do a before and after comparison on the same exact dyno to try to get a pretty, fair comparison. Speaking of dynos, I did a different dyno shop this time than my old shop in Idaho, just because it was a lot closer. And as long as I do the before and after on the same dyno, I feel like the gains will be a pretty accurate comparison. Going from a different brand of dyno, it seems like you always will get a slightly different power number, and if the air temperature is a little bit warmer or colder, all that stuff can kind of come into play. But that's a whole other discussion altogether. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of the plan. Give me some suggestions. I'm always open for feedback. And stay tuned, because starting next week, as soon as I get this Suburban done, we are going to start on the engine build. So thank you guys for watching. That's going to bring this video to a close. I'm really, really excited to kick off this step side. Do me a favor, do the 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. That really genuinely helps this channel grow. And I appreciate you guys. I honestly do. Thank you so much. I'll see you again soon.